if your only purpose to write a content is the traffic, maybe it would work for you. But if you're serving to customers, if there's a human being reading it and based on what he or she reads, gonna be your customer or not, I think that's where the AI fails.
Before we jump into today's episode, I'd like to give a quick shout out to the sponsor for this episode, Ahrefs. Ahrefs provides you with an all-in-one SEO toolset that does everything from rank tracking to backlink analysis, keyword research, and technical audits. The best part, you can now use Ahrefs Webmaster Tools for free to identify and prioritize optimization opportunities for your website, see all the keywords that your web pages are ranking for, take a close look at the websites that link back to and refer you in their content, and analyze other websites to find out what drives their rankings. Visit ahrefs.com/AWT and sign up for free. And now, back to today's episode. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the SaaS SEO Show. I'm your host, George Kasiotis, and today I'm very happy to be joined by a friend whom I know and I'm in touch with for quite some time now. I'm very excited to be speaking with him today, and I'm sure that the things that he will share are things that you haven't heard of and you would like to hear, especially if you're running content and SEO in an early stage SaaS company. So, John, welcome to the SaaS SEO Show.
George, thank you. Thank you so much, my friend. And it's a pleasure to be here and a pleasure to speak on your podcast.
So you are the co-founder and CMO at Datapad, but can you speak a bit about what you did before that? What has brought you to Datapad and where you are at today?
Yes, of course. Actually, like in the beginning, I had nothing to do with startups. I come from investment background, right? So I was on the other side of the table. Like I was not an entrepreneur. I was the person who's funding the companies. And then I ventured into entrepreneurship space. I built a company back in 2017, a B2B SaaS company, which is acquired today. And after that, I was like, like this B2B SaaS is good. I enjoy it. I enjoy marketing. I especially enjoy content. And after that, I took a couple more CMO head of growth roles, scaled a couple of companies, B2B SaaS companies from 0 to 1 and 1 to 10. On the way, I started doing advisory for venture capitals and accelerators, working with their companies and also doing solo advisories. Then I told myself it is time again to build another venture. And that's when I teamed up with my co-founder and we decided to build a Datapad.
Okay, and what is Datapad for people who haven't heard of it?
Okay, so I'll try to explain it in the most simple way. Datapad is, okay, I want to give an example from Canva. Okay, so because we call ourselves, we want to be the Canva for data. So I am someone who can use Canva today because it's super easy, even though my designing skills are horrible. But Canva made design easy for everyone, right? But me, as someone who's coming from an analytics background, I don't think data is still easy for everyone. It's not easy for you to create a dashboard, check your metrics. So we want to make data for everyone. We don't want to make data exclusive for technical people. We want to make sure that it's super easy. Even your grandmas can set up a dashboard and track metrics from there.
Okay, may I ask something? Because I generally don't know, but my impression was that, there are several tools that do that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Have you found a gap or that, many of these tools don't have a specific capability that people are missing or anything like that?
Yes, there are quite a few tools. I respect them, great tools, but the way I see it is, again, I'll refer back to the design space. These tools are more like Adobe of the design, right? They're more for advanced users and they're more complex. And we want to be super, super simple. Like I use those tools and I use my own tool, and ours is much more simpler than the other tools because we want to go for masses, right? We don't want to specifically target people technical people at agencies or technical founders in different personas. We want to make this for the masses. And the other thing is, we also want to help teams with the collaboration as well. Most of the data tools out there, they'll give you a dashboard, you will do your analysis, but then you'll stop there. The thing we want to do is like, we also want to make this a collaborative environment, right? So you can go there and have a conversation under a KPI with your team, right? You can write a comment and tag someone and then assign tasks. So we want to make this easy as possible and also make it collaborative as well. So that's how we try to differentiate with the rest of the market. And also we want to make it look super cool.
Okay, that makes sense. So you are the CMO of the company. And I would like to ask, what is your focus as the CMO? What are you working on these days?
Yeah, I mean, I put a CMO there, but I don't call myself a CMO. I just call myself the guy who's dealing with the marketing in a very early stage startup. Most of my time these days are still doing a lot of customer interviews and trying to help with the product roadmap. I spend the previous 6 months on building the growth engine. I spend most of my time there, but now I think we've done a good job there. So I don't invest much time into building the growth engine, but now I spend like most of my time into doing the customer interviews, iterating those interviews, and then giving more feedback to the product and for the product team. And also, we're about to raise another round, so I spend most of my time on the investor relations.
We will get back to the customer interviews part because I'm interested in it. But for now, you mentioned like building the growth engine in the last 6 months. Can we get a bit more specific? And obviously, yeah. We are friends. We are connected on LinkedIn, and I see and read your LinkedIn posts, and I have seen that you have achieved some great results. And I will start from the let's say the top of the pyramid, which is traffic. What have you achieved in terms of traffic in these last 6 months for Datapad?
Of course, the traffic. So as far as we started doing content in August, and there was no prior content activity with the Datapad. And as of today, I think it's like 25K right now, 24.8. So in 6 months, we hit it was not zero exactly, it was like 300 organic traffic per month to 25K. And most of this work was done actually in 3.5 months. The first 3.5 months, I designed a sprint and I front loaded as much content as possible. And then the remaining time was basically spent on optimizing the content. So we did like 3.5 months of content sprint and went from 300 to 25K in 6 months.
Can I ask you something? As I was doing the, let's say, research for this episode, I noticed that Datapad used to be, I don't know, a tool or a SaaS company or consultancy, but it used to be something like that. So, I mean, the domain is kind of old. Do you think that this had a positive contribution to your overall growth?
There was another company, as far as I know, but when we took the domain, first of all, like we had no idea about it, and we were not ranking for anything at all. I don't think that, I mean, I'm not the expert when it comes to identifying stuff like, but I don't think that it had much of an impact apart from like, I think we had a bit higher domain rating when we started than someone who's starting from scratch. Maybe that might have benefited us, but there was like, we were not ranking anything relevant. We were just getting some traffic, I think. Datapad, the Star Wars thing. There's a Datapad in Star Wars. That was a weird thing for me because I'm a Star Wars fan. I was like, I didn't know that there's a Datapad in Star Wars. Apart from that, there was nothing.
I'm just asking because we have seen in general like a positive correlation between the age of a domain and like how fast you can expect to get results. I mean, in general, this like the history in general of a domain matters, and it can also have a negative impact. For example, now we started working with a client, and they are a returning client. I mean, they had a company, they sold it. We were working with them then, and then they got back to us. They are launching a new company, and we have seen that the the domain had a manual penalty. Okay, and this is not a good thing to have, especially in the beginning of of an engagement and of a business, let's say, that also wants to base their growth on organic search. But I think that in your case, if I had to guess, I would say that it had a positive contribution, and also the name in general had a positive contribution, and the fact that the domain was old and relevant to what you're building. I would like to get a bit more, let's say, in depth when it comes to how you achieved that. You did a content sprint. Can you get a bit more specific about that? I mean, how? First of all, let's take it from the beginning. Like, how did the keyword research process look like? Was it based on what, on the insights you got from these customer interviews, on research using SEO software? How did you came up with these keywords?
Of course. So in the beginning, maybe I'll give a bit of a context on why I started doing content super early in the journey. So when I build a startup, I feel like the best way of setting yourself up for a scale is that you start doing the things that are not scalable in terms of marketing, right? Things that will bring you short-term results. It could be like a product hunt launch. It could be reaching out to your family and friends and doing outreach. And then at the same time, I feel like you need to build your growth engine as well. So it could be, sales loop, it could be virality, it could be content in SEO, and it could be ads. And in my case, I picked content in SEO, and I was like, I know, not that for certain, but I had a great feeling from my past experience that this is going to be a PLG play, and a content is going to be a growth engine for us. So with this in my mind, I started building content very early on. I think it's contrary to what everyone is saying, that, hey, you should wait to hit a product market fit before you build. But then I've done that in the past. So you build a product, you get a lot of customers, and then the traction side is lacking. And you're I should have started building this early on. It would have been better. So that was the reason why I started early on. And the way I started is, so I started reach out to some people on LinkedIn, and I also reach out to some family and friends to get the initial feedback from these people. And also the other way is I use G2. So I use G2 to look at our competitors, right? And then I read every single review, who's giving those reviews, what are the titles of those people. And then specifically, I was very careful about reading this section where people talk about the jobs to be done that they're trying to achieve with the competitor tool, right? So that really helped me in the beginning to understand what is the jobs to be done of my audience, what are the problems that they're trying to solve, what is it that they're trying to achieve. That was the big part of my keyword research. But this time I didn't use anything at all. So I was just trying to come up with ideas so that I can build my list. And then we did product hunt launch. Okay, in the product hunt launch, there was a big traction. So when that traction happened, some of these people, they really loved the product and they stayed with us. Then I run a proper jobs to be done interview with those people. I was basically asking these people, hey, how would you search for a solution like ours? And could you please share your screen and show me how would you do it? And that gave me a lot of great options as well. So that gave me keyword ideas that I wouldn't be able to find it from Ahrefs or SEMrush. So this is how I built my initial risk, doing the customer interviews one-on-one, and also using a G2. Those two things were the main stuff for me.
Can I ask you, first of all, great framework for someone who is just starting out and wants to replicate your success. But can I ask you, when you were on an interview, let's say, with a person who signed up for the product and kind of explained how they would search for it, did you then did you factor in things like, I don't know, search volume or keyword difficulty or anything like that? Or it was just, no, if this person says that this is, or if this is a pattern that I see among different people I've interviewed, and they say that, this is how we would search for something like that, a solution like yours, then that's it. I don't have to be biased by what Ahrefs says or SEMrush or any other tool for that matter?
Yes, I had instances like that where like there was a keyword, there was a volume, but it wasn't much. I think most people wouldn't cover it. But for me, like if, if I'm hearing something recurrently on a customer interview, right, and it's relevant to my business, it has a high business relevancy. I don't care if there's a traffic or if there's a low traffic. I make sure that I cover it. I cover it for two reasons. One, my customers are mentioning it, right? So even there's no search volume, some people could be searching for it and I could gain customers from there. Two, like I'm probably trying to build a topical authority on that topic. And I do believe that like if you want to achieve a topical authority status, you got to cover everything that you can cover, whether if something has, I don't know, 0 search volume or 10 search volume. Those were like the two reasons why I put all those things into my content calendar.
Okay, and after you finalize these topics like and keywords, like this is it, this is what we are going to do, what were the next steps? I mean, did you hire someone in-house? Did you outsource some of that stuff? How did the process look like? And, how
Yes.
did you execute on your strategy?
Okay, so after doing my customer interviews, there were a couple of important things for me. One, like I came up with the topic that I want to build a topical authority on. And then I went ahead and also looked for the keywords that is around the problem of my audience. And then I identify the keywords that are around the desired outcome of my audience based on the interviews. And then I also looked for the current solution, like what are the alternatives if people don't use, if they're not using a tool like mine or my competitors, what is a different way of doing it, right? How are they currently doing it? So I identified all those things, and then I created a topical map, right? I did my keyword research, and then I created a topical map. I visualized it in Miro. And after that, I found a content writer so that he can help me with writing the content, because I'm not the best with writing content. I did the content strategy, I did the topical map, I created the content briefs, I did the on-page optimization. I was the one who's uploading everything to the CMS. So that's how my process was. Like I did most of the content strategy and on-page optimization, and I delegated writing to my writer.
What about content briefing? Was that on you? Like
It's me. It's me. The only
Okay.
thing that I delegated was just writing. Like I did the briefing, keyword research, topical map, and the only thing that my writer had to do was just write it.
Okay. How did you hire that person? I mean, because I guess that some of the topics are a bit more specialized, right? I'm not referring to alternatives or anything like that, but when you have to write something about KPI tracking or how to do a certain thing on Google Sheets, for example, how to build a dashboard on Google Sheets, which is one of the pages that you have that ranks really well. I mean, it requires some knowledge and also some hands-on experience with that tool. So I guess my question is, did this person have experience with like KPI tracking, metrics, and like dashboarding and things like that? Or
yeah. So how I hired the person is I knew the person before we worked together, and he found me through LinkedIn. I think he commented on one of my posts, and then we had a chat. That's how I found the person. He didn't have a background on a tool like mine, but he had a background on B2B SaaS. So he already knew the space. He used some of the competitor tools out there. But the way we did it was like when I hire someone, even if this person is not a full-time a freelancer, I make sure that they understand the product, right? I have a call with them. I show them how to use the product. I talk about the competitors. If necessary, I send them little videos, and like I try to give as much information as I can so that the person is like a full-time full-time person in my team. So that's how we overcame that. It took a bit of time to onboarding, but I feel like this is the right way, right? If you're going to be talking about my product, is that I need to make sure that you know and you understand my product. And also, of course, like I was doing editing as well. I wouldn't just let someone like write about my product without me seeing it, what is going on there. So in the beginning, like I was more hands-on. I was sending the Loom videos and I was saying that, hey, like this is not the use case. This is how we use it. This is why we do it. This kind of stuff. That's what we did.
This sounds like a lot of work, right? And I would like to ask, how many like pieces of content have you published in this, let's say 3.5 months? Like the bulk of it were published in this like time window, but in general, how many pages have you published since you started?
In total right now, we're in this 3 months. I think
in total, I would say in total.
In total, okay. I think it's 74 or 75, if I'm not wrong. If I'm not right, it should be 75, not more than that. I'm talking about the blog posts. Yeah, we did 75. Most of it is done in 3.5 months. To be honest, like after December, end of December, we did not do much on publishing new content. It was just like optimizing this stuff, focusing on the information gain score.
Okay, that makes sense. And still, that's quite impressive. I mean, we are an agency and we have handled some projects like that, and it's quite impressive. I would like to ask, you also did alternative pages, and I saw that you also did some comparisons, like, you know, one tool vs the other. How do you go about these pages? Because especially when you are at an early stage, I guess there can be some assumptions as to what, you know, the competing solutions are, but were your decisions on what pages to create alternatives for based on also things that people shared with you, like, yeah, we would use this, or we use this and we are not happy, and so?
Yeah, so I sourced most of it from the early customer interviews I had. So I would ask people, what other tools you considered, which one of them you like, or like I would basically ask them, hey, like, what was your solution, right? Like how are you solving it? And you see that we have a lot of content on Google Sheets because like most of our users are actually using Google Sheets to build those dashboards, not one of the competitors. But the way I prioritize the alternatives is like, if I'm hearing about the particular company a lot in my customer interviews, I'll go and prioritize that content company first. And there were some instances that I had no idea about this competitor, but I kept hearing it on the customer interviews. And there was like maybe like 10, 20 search volume per month. And then I was actually getting a lot more than that. And I was actually getting the right type of leads from this type of content.
Okay, what about promotion and link building? Have you done anything around that?
No link building was done. I mean, I usually, like, for me, like I haven't done an active link building in the past. Like the link building I've done was always from the passive link building, linkable assets, like a statistics and trends kind of articles. But in this case, we didn't do any link building. It's just we relied on the topical authority and the content velocity. I didn't get into link building.
Also, back to alternative pages and more specifically comparisons, I saw that you have a three-way comparison on the website. And I would like to ask your thoughts about that, because I know that some companies do it. Like there are two prominent competitors and they add themselves in, you know, the conversation. And I would like to hear your thoughts on that. I mean, what's your experience with these pages in general? Creating comparison pages for two other competitors and kind of like promoting your solution in there, or, you know, straight away creating a three-way comparison page?
Yeah. I mean, I've experimented with this thing in the past. So it converts. And the reason why I hijack myself there is because like I had some customers signing up, and like when I asked them, hey, like, how did you hear about us? And then they were like, we actually had no idea that you existed. We're trying to go between the two companies. And I just wanted to get more information and read from the other people. I just searched, you know, company versus company. And I thought that I was going to read company versus company. And then someone is saying, hello, like there's another tool there. And then it just got my attention. And then I read the article. Then I went to your homepage and looked around it and signed up. So it converts. I would say that the traffic is very low. To be honest, like we did not get a lot of conversions from those articles, and we didn't do a lot of these as well. I think we have quite a few of them, but I know if I want to scale it, I could scale and do more. It was more like an experiment again for us, but I'll tell you that they do convert. It's an interesting because when someone is searching for a competitor versus a competitor, they're already late in the journey, right? They decided to make a purchase. But then someone else is coming in and say, hey, like my brand is there. Hello, like there's this company as well. You can still poach them because they made their mind that they want to invest in a solution like yours, right? So why not just say hi and introduce yourself? And if they want to give it a go, then they'll give it a go. That was my thinking.
You're very open about the results that you achieve, and I like that. We talked about traffic, and which is kind of one of the outputs of this effort. And we also talked about inputs like 70 plus pieces of content covering different stages of the life cycle journey. I would like to talk about another output, which is leads. And at the end of the day, if any of these things and this very hard work and very carefully planned, plan that you have crafted, does it result in leads? And I'm not referring just to like alternative pages and comparison pages, but also like other pages covering different intents that you have created content for.
Yes, of course. In terms of leads, well, maybe it's going to be surprising, but yes, alternative pages are converting, but we also get a lot of leads from what I call the current solution focused content, right? So we have, like most of our users were actually using Google Sheets, right? So I've written a lot of content on like how to create a KPI dashboard, how to do XYZ on Google Sheets. And these type of articles are converting and bringing us leads as well. And the reason is like, I give people what they want in those articles, right? Like, hey, like, here's how you can create a Google Sheet dashboard in 5 or 6 steps. But then I go back to my customer interviews, right? We have some customers using Google Sheets, and I ask them like, what is it that you didn't like? What triggered you to look for another solution? And I take the information that I gather from these interviews and then put it into the same article and say, hey, look, you can do KPI dashboard with Google Sheets. That's fine. Do it this way, and we help you. But there's some drawbacks, and I think the key is like you don't guess the drawbacks there. You actually source those drawbacks from people who are experiencing this problem. And then after that, I would put another section like, hey, like there's a better way of creating a KPI dashboard, and you can do it this way. Then I would put like screenshots, videos, and I try to do my best to explain. And actually, these type of articles are receiving a decent traffic and converting as well, like bringing us leads.
That's a very good insight. I like it. Speaking of, using screenshots when you're like creating a piece of content, especially for Google Sheets, I mean, is that part of the content briefing process, or is it just the writer's work to do? Or is it like you give the direction, here we need to have a step-by-step process on how to do this, and then the writer goes and execute on that?
Yeah, so I put it onto content brief. I put the steps, and then I also, for example, mentioned like these are the drawbacks that we need to be using in, and we need to talk especially about this and this and this. The steps, again, I put it onto content brief. I link to some other contents that I've done it in the past and performed well, as an example. And if it's necessary, I usually have a call with my writer and explain how we're going to do all those steps. Like I try to give as much as I can. I have like Notion docs and SOPs or like ready assets that I can give it to my writers so that it's easier for them, so that they don't need to go out and look for all these resources. And that's how I'm trying to help to my writer.
Do you have a view on where do conversions happen? Do they happen on that page, or people just go to the home page and just sign up from there?
Yeah. Again, here, like I'll keep referring to my customers and users all the time because I'm a very user-centric person. If when someone is sign up, I usually send them an email, right? I try to have a conversation with them when they sign up and when they use the product for a couple of days. And I ask them like, hey, like, how did you sign up? And most of the people are saying that they decided to sign up, and they clicked on the CTA while they were reading the blog. And I asked them why, and the response that I usually get is like, we felt good about you guys because like you were not hiding it behind a paywall, like you were actually showing how this thing works. You were putting screenshots, videos, and everything. We felt that it was right for us, so we just wanted to give it a go, and just click on the CTA on the page, and then go for the product.
Yeah. So as I hear it, like the customer or the person who signed up for the product, even if they're not a customer yet, this is the ultimate source of truth, right?
Yeah. I mean, I always like to refer back to my customers. As I said, like I'm very user centric. Another example, maybe it's not relevant to this, but like show you how user centric I am. Sometimes I use a hotjar and put the questions onto my blog, right? Hey, like how we could make this article better, and did this help you? How we would be able to help you better? What do you think is missing from an article? And I collect those responses, and then when it's time to update my content, I go on and update my content based on these responses. I don't know if a lot of people are doing that, but like I experiment with this. Sometimes you get some insight that is like, oh, like I didn't think about this.
Yeah, that makes sense. What are your thoughts on AI content?
I mean, thoughts is I keep seeing how ChatGPT helped me to go from a zero to something else in LinkedIn pretty much like every single day, and that's one of the reasons why I don't want to go back to LinkedIn, because it's all about, oh, like ChatGPT helped me to create 5,000 pages in one day. What I think is I'm experimenting with it, not on my domain. I'm not putting out to the blog. Like I'm just trying to see how it works. But I mean, it writes an article, but when I read it, it's like it's dull. It's dull. The thing is, I see that the bad content can rank, right? It ranks. I see a lot of bad content ranking. You probably see it as well. But if your only purpose to write a content is the traffic, maybe it would work for you. But if you're serving to customers, if there's a human being reading it, and based on what he or she reads, gonna be your customer or not, I think that's where the AI fails. I don't think it's doing a great job there. I mean, it helps me with doing some SEO related stuff, and like I use it as my VA. Especially when it comes to entities, it helps me with finding entities from other articles out there. But for writing content, I just feel like it's dull. Like I don't like it that much.
I understand. I guess we will start wrapping things up, and one of my last questions would be: you are doing this for a while now. I mean, you have grown businesses, you have exited businesses. Where do you see all this, going? Like, especially when it comes to SaaS and how SaaS companies do marketing in general. What do you think the future looks like?
Yeah, that's a very, very tricky question. I mean, every time there's a new technology, people start talking, oh, like, is this the dead of, I don't know, is this the end of SEO? Is this the end of content marketing? I think we've been seeing the same thing since like 2000 or something. But even if, I don't know, if AI content has a certain impact on my acquisition channel because of the SEO, my goal is to make revenue, right? Is to get customers as a B2B SaaS founder. I'll just adopt and I'll find something else. And that's what I can say. Like my goal is not to generate traffic. My goal is to generate users. And if SEO stops working for me, which I don't think that it's going to happen, then I'll find another way. Then I'll go LinkedIn, and I don't know, I'll do TikTok maybe.
Yeah, not anytime soon, at least, because it's like it has to be these days the one or the other, right? There's no like middle ground. Let's say either SEO is dead or SEO is the best, right? Even especially for companies and clients of ours where SEO is a very important channel, we always suggest that they look for alternatives, because what if something goes wrong, right? What if Google releases a new update and you lose some of your traffic, and thus as an extension some of your acquired customers, and so on and so forth. So it's always good to diversify, but I see it as a great channel. And I would say that there is always a middle ground. Like it doesn't have to be It's not white or black. SEO is dead, or SEO is the best, and that's the only one. That's not how it works. Anyway, next steps for Datapad.
Next step for Datapad. So we're trying to raise another round and build. So we're gonna launch a huge update soon and give the updated version of the product based on the feedbacks that we gathered. I think it will happen by the end of this month, and after that, the next step is to go into fundraising mode and raise funds to make this thing even bigger. And from the acquisition perspective, again, I will not invest heavily into content and SEO because I think we've done enough. I'll be focusing more again on the customer interview side of things and see how people use the product, and maybe based on that, I'll do some tweaks on my current content.
That's great. That was all very insightful. John, thank you very much for this. Last question I have for you. Where can people find out more and get in touch if they'd like to?
I'm trying to be active on LinkedIn. Sometimes I'm not. I'm trying to hide these ChatGPT carousels, but most of the times I'm on LinkedIn, John Ozuysal, and also like I started my newsletter recently, growthwhispers.com. So I try to share my experiences there. But if you want to reach out to me, LinkedIn is the best way.
Okay, we will drop all these notes and links in the show notes, and also Datapad. Datapad.io is the website for people who want to check out, Datapad and what you're building there. John, thank you very much for this. Really appreciate it.
George, thank you, my friend, and looking forward to having another chat with you soon.
Before you go, I'd like to give a quick shout out to the sponsor for this episode, Ahrefs. Ahrefs provides you with an all-in-one SEO toolset that does everything from rank tracking to backlink analysis, keyword research, and technical audits. The best part, you can now use Ahrefs Webmaster Tools for free to identify and prioritize optimization opportunities for your website, see all the keywords that your web pages are ranking for, take a close look at the websites that link back to and refer you in their content, and analyze other websites to find out what drives their rankings. Visit ahrefs.com/AWT and sign up for free.